98.
So, thank you for joining us today at the 98% Arm Wrestling Podcast. Today we have joined with us the founders of the High Five Armwrestling Club, stationed out of New Jersey. We have Kristofer Florendo and Jason Ciardi here joined us with today. We're going to talk about, their background in arm wrestling, how they started High Five Club, and everything else in between. So, with that being said, I guess we'll start with Jason. Jason, tell us, what got you into arm wrestling to begin with?
So I think it's been about 4 years now, and I looked, man. I looked really, really hard. I've told Chris this many, many times. Like, I looked really, really hard, probably for over 2 years. This was around the time that WAL was, I think it was on Spike at the time. So it was pretty hot at the time. Like, as I guess mainstream as you could say over the past maybe 10 years, you know what I mean? Like real TV and so forth. And they kept advertising, come to a contest, try out, we're having WAL events all over the place. But of course, they're not having any within 100 miles of New Jersey. Right. So I'm looking and looking and looking, and I'm trying to find one. And I kept saying to my boss, my VP at the time, I'm like, I'm going to be going to a competition in a month. I'm like, I'm going to be out for 3 days. And then we'd get busy, and it just didn't work. So I just started training. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to train, and I'm going to figure this out, which was probably the worst thing I could have done, because that's not how this sport works. I found that out the years of wrist curls that did me no good. I had a friend that, I came home on a Thursday one night, and I never, ever had off Thursday night. I worked 9 to 9 every Thursday for years. And I came home one day early, and he's like, hey, you've got to go see these guys. And it just happened to be that I got home at 5. He sent me beast mode. And it's probably like 7:30 before I got up the balls to just be like, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna text somebody and be like, hey, if you don't hear from me in 3 hours, I'm dead in a warehouse somewhere. Right. And I went, man, and it was weird. It was very, very weird, but it was like 2 hours into practice. You probably couldn't tell that we hadn't known each other for 10 years. You know what I mean? It was just absolutely amazing. It was back when they were in the warehouse. I forget what town that was again, but back in the warehouse, just little dark kind of like garage. And I got my butt beat pretty bad that day, and probably for another 3 months. I remember just sitting in practice, like holding my arm, rocking at times. My elbows hurt so much. And then probably 3 months in, I did the NY Arms, like Empire State and Queens. I tried that competition, and then foolishly, I decided to go to California and qualify for the Arnold. That didn't happen the first time. That was about 6 months in. But then the following year I did. So I qualified. COVID hit, unfortunately, and that bumped us back, and it kept bumping us back. But the nice thing is that in that time, I got to train. I qualified for IFA. We went to IFA, Chris and I, and a bunch of guys from Beast Mode. And then just this past March, I was at the Arnold. And that's basically right up until now, I've done like little other competitions here and there, but those were really like the beginning, and then like the big ones that I've done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's definitely a cool experience. And yeah, 4 years ago was a different landscape from what it is today, right?
Yeah, completely different. But yeah, it was on TV. You know what I mean? A friend kept telling me about it, but it was really that it was just on TV, and I kept saying I could be good at it, or not knowing anything about it at all, just knowing like, oh yeah, I was strong in middle school and high school, which
I thought
most of us do, and we all find out it means nothing.
Yeah, you show up to practice and someone half your weight is smoking you.
The guy down here, this one right here, over there,
Yes.
the other guy with the white background, wherever he is on the screen, that man, right, that guy. And that's actually why I started talking to Chris so much, man. I had so much respect and so much curiosity about how he was so strong and how I could get that good. that
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm just going to annoy him until he figures he's got to talk to me and and then show me whatever this stuff is that he's doing.
Now,
Yeah.
how do you guys match up now?
No, not even close.
We go back and forth. So, I would say fairly, like, I don't know. What do you think? About every 3 months, Chris? About every 3 to 6 months, we go through kind of a slight tweak. It's not so much like one of us just crushes the other definitively. It's more like so, Chris was going high and outside, and we were working on his technique. And once we started to tweak that and we started to go inside, then I had to adapt. Chris started to make up ground, and then Chris is getting me, and then I make a couple of tweaks. I started not capping any longer when I was rising, and that made a huge difference. And it's like we go back and forth. When you train with someone and you coach someone in so many aspects, when you do it so often and you're with that person so regularly, I mean, the great thing is that you never know really who's the better arm wrestler. You know what I mean? We know each other so well. It's difficult, and we don't regularly kind of go all out. We've done that before, but with the team, I don't think we have the time to really do that. You know what I mean?
Working the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? What's your background, man?
So I guess mine kind of goes back a little bit farther. I want to say it's probably early college, late high school, where like kind of Game of Arms came out, and me and my good friend David, we kind of got into the sport through that. We'd try to find anything that was flat, that we'd try to arm wrestle on it, before we even knew that there was like legit tables for it. And then my background before that, high school, I competed in wrestling, so I did that for most of my career there, and then I realized I'm not going to be a D1 wrestler and go to the Olympics like a lot of wrestlers that do it. So kind of looking for that next big thing that I could put all my time and effort into, because that was kind of like a job. I went to clubs and I was doing it every single day, right, even during the off season. So then from there, college hit, and we kept trying to look for a team, couldn't really find anyone. And then funny enough, we ended up, well, I was at a wedding. David ended up going to the gym in Union, New Jersey, and he runs into Marcio Barboza. And like, of all people, right? And he calls me up and he's like, I just met Marcio. You wouldn't believe this. And I'm like, you're right. I don't believe this. I don't think you just met one of the goats of the sport, right? This guy like put it on the map for Brazil. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And he's like, he told me they practice every Thursday in North Arlington. We should roll up. And I'm like, well, you're definitely not going alone because you're going to get killed. If there's a guy that even looks like the size of Marcio, like, you're not going to stand a chance. So we go and we kind of look them up. We see it's the Beast Mode team, and like normal first year arm wrestlers you look at and you're scoping people out like, oh, I could take them. That guy, he's fine. He's probably nothing. Thinking he brings them to the table. And then we go. It's actually Bob Sawick's garage, and we go there and get trashed. Everyone like trashes us. Like, I think at one point we grabbed the pin pad like peg instead of the actual peg. It was so embarrassing. It's like we never even knew what arm wrestling was. We thought we knew what top roll and hook was, and then they like completely showed us that we had no idea what we were talking about. But it was an awesome environment too, because what got me into the sport was training with people that were willing to show you like how they beat you. Like for example, Bob would like constantly like say like, this is exactly what I'm doing, and try to find a way around it. Normally I feel like in other sports, especially like other combative sports, you always have like a secret, right? And it's like, oh, I don't want to show what my secret technique is because then I'll lose my edge. But the one thing I love about arm wrestling is, and kind of what built my relationship with Jason is, we want to spread the sport so badly because it's so niche at the moment that we'll teach you everything you want to know, even if it is like what my weaknesses are per se, just because I know it'll make me better, and, going through that, going through the different tournaments, the Beast of the East, or it was like the Big Apple Grapple was another one that, kind of got me started. And then, like Jason said, I was probably in like year 2 or 3, probably at that point, still competing amateur, but, I pulled with Jason. I knew immediately, like, you can tell when someone has a strong enough base that like in the beginning, like, yeah, you're beating them, but those days are numbered. So like I pulled this guy and I was like, I told the rest of the team, I was like, guys, get your wins in now, because like in a few months he's gonna start wrecking us too. Especially with a hand like that, man. It was frustrating. So yeah, we kind of built a relationship from there, and like he said, like COVID unfortunately kind of shut a lot of things down. Like especially Beast Mode took a big hit in terms of like just having access to. We used to have like huge practices, like 30 people plus when Marcia would come by or like Paul Lynn would stop by. And I love that, getting that, like building that community and like having new people show up all the time and showing them the ropes, right? And then I guess this is kind of how we got into the whole high five talk. We were just around each other all the time because I could see, like a blind person could see Jason's potential, right? So, I wanted to give him as much knowledge that I had and like say like, hey, I know like in terms of competition, he's competing in like usually 190s. I'm usually 175s, 165s when I first started. Like, so, I know our pulling styles are different, but let's see what I can help you with. You know what I mean? And I really enjoy that coaching aspect, especially because after high school, I couldn't compete with wrestling. But what I did was I ended up coaching like rec wrestling for kids like 5 to 13. So when you get patience with that, then, you can teach anybody. Adults are easy,
Even a bunch of whiny arm wrestlers.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
Do you find that coaching has helped you as an arm wrestler, like develop your skill that much better? Because it kind of, for me, when I'm coaching and when I teach, I feel like the basics are reinforced for me. If I forgot something, oh crap, I'm going to teach this guy the wrong thing if I miss this part. Wait, am I missing that part? And am I misdoing that part?
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that's a great point, right? Because I feel like even with our own guys, I try to stress to them is like, you can't teach somebody something that you don't know the ins and outs of. So like, if I'm going to go and teach them the specific technique, I have to understand like what different possible questions they could come up with and make sure I have an answer for each one of those. And I think, right, like as you go through like training with people on your team, regardless of the skill level, Devon mentioned it during the seminar, and we're going to talk about that later, but it helps kind of hone those like weaknesses you have, because you can let them go as to like really, really close to the pin pad and say like, all right, let's work from there. And then I can work all these different angles. And again, I don't have to go 1,000% and I can still gain something from it.
Right. I know you touched on it a little bit, but just to elaborate, walk us through how High Five started.
Jay, if you want
to. So like Chris,
how you picked the name.
Oh, well, that's
high-fiving each other.
That part is easy, and that part is the exact. Well, no, I wouldn't say the opposite, but completely different than what everybody thinks it is. I'm constantly telling people like, remember the. Don't like. They're always like, oh, those high five guys, and I'm like, no. We're not just a bunch of happy motherfuckers running around like just, oh, yay, great, The name part was really, really simple. So, originally the high five is it's this, right? These are your high five.
Yeah.
It's your hand. It's the first thing. Rising, in my opinion, rising is the first thing you can do, right? Height is the first thing you can get when you're on the table. There's really not anything else you can do first. There's a lot of things that are important to get the minute the match starts, but height is, right? Height is king, right? The high hand wins. So I was looking at that, and I'm looking at trying to put together potentially a competition, right? So I'm like, oh, the high five. I'm thinking at first it's your hand, but then I'm also thinking like the high five, like the 5 weight classes, like these are the 5, like as silly as it sounds, like maybe like the 3 musketeers, right? Like those are the guys, right? So that's really where that came from. It never turned into a competition until recently, tournament until recently, because COVID hit. But COVID gave us an opportunity that I don't think we would have had without it. Like Chris said, a lot of other teams kind of went underground. They kind of got quiet. Maybe they stopped entirely, which God would have been a shame. But Chris and I continued to communicate regularly, and we had already pre-COVID been meeting weekly, like no matter what, whether there was practice or not. Chris and I were meeting at my place in the garage or wherever it was. We were meeting and we were training. And so, you know, when COVID hit, we started talking about like all different ideas. We had ideas for all different projects related to arm wrestling, and everything kind of shut down. And as things started to come up, we were looking for someone to practice with. We were looking to get back into practicing, and it wasn't as accessible. And you know, I said to Chris one day, I'm like, look, like, why don't we just try and start a team? Like, you know what I mean? Why don't we reach out to people and see what we can do? You know what I mean? Like, so Armbet, I have to mention, Armbet had just come out this time too.
Yeah.
Like Armbet was out, and Armbet was really, really popular at the time. You know what I mean? Anybody that knew, anybody that was interested was looking to Armbet. As if it wasn't already difficult to find the team, COVID really killed that, like I said. So I said to Chris, I said, look, I'll go into Armbet. I'll find everybody I can possibly find in our area. We'll go outside. We'll keep it safe. Like, we won't go near anyone. We'll be outdoors, and we'll just see what happens. So our first practice was just in a park next to a jungle gym by the water, and right across from New York City. We were there for probably an hour at the arm wrestling table before anybody came by. Like Chris and I even questioned leaving. We're like, this is two strange guys in a park with an arm wrestling table. And we weren't really arm wrestling. Like, we were obviously just looking around for people. We were talking. And I don't remember who it was. One of us said, no. It might have been, probably was Chris that was like, no, we shouldn't leave. Let's wait a little bit. And then Kevin showed up. And then about 40 minutes later, Federico showed up. So that was our first practice. Yeah.
Cool.
That is very cool. Now, so you've talked to and alluded a little bit about the evolution of the sport since you both have been in it. What has been your favorite evolution of the sport to date?
I think, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the sign that one move won't solve it all, right? I think we've seen that the basics and foundation have lived for a very long time. John Brzezinski has kind of claim to fame was making sure that he was very versatile. Marcel Barboza made sure they could do everything on the table with Devon, right? Then we saw kind of the phase of where Michael Todd had this King's move that no one could find the answer to. You know, he was crushing some of the strongest people in the world. Dave Chafee was having to revert to like the King's move, and like no one could believe what they were seeing. You know, Devon ended up picking up as well, right? And what's beautiful about this sport is how it's constantly, like you said, evolving to now, like, we're seeing the Europeans have kind of found an answer to it. You know, the Gennady and like all of them are like, okay, now that one person figured out how to beat the King's move, now it's kind of getting passed along, and now it's kind of seeing like, where do we go from here? You know, like, and loving to see that like versatility still reigns supreme, right? As long as you can do everything, then you'll be safest. If you kind of have that like, you know, silver bullet, it'll only last so many, you know, generations or so many years, and then someone will figure it out. But yeah, and I think also just the evolution of like on a more broad spectrum, like not necessarily technique, just seeing how, like, for example, what Larry Wheels and what Adam Silver are doing with the sport, right? Like seeing that even though like WAEL and unfortunately like Game of Arms wasn't as successful, and I think WAEL is possibly coming back, you're seeing like a Larry Wheels personality come in and taking the reins and kind of giving like the sport new life, you know, and it kind of inspired us also to kind of see like, where can we go with it? Because like, again, you see that there's so much potential with where this sport can go. And it just, sometimes it's not necessarily money, because like, I feel like WOL had tons of money and unfortunately it didn't kind of grow as much as people expected.
Yeah.
But like, you just have to have that community. And that's kind of the one thing that I love the most about the sport, aside from like pull on the table, that's great. But from our transition from being like beast mode competitors and becoming now owners of the High Five, there was never that like animosity from like other people that like met up with me. Like, cause when I first started, everyone was awesome. And you kind of have that fear of like, oh, is he like still connected to that group or whatever? What are they doing? Right. But everyone was super supportive and was like, oh, you guys are starting something new. Like, what is this new thing that popped up? And it's like, doesn't matter what shirt you're wearing or what team you represent, you're still the same brother that I like was training with last week. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful thing, you know, because it's, at the end of the day, these are all like businesses and teams that are trying to grow. you could see that being very competitive. And I know it's a one-on-one sport, but you can see that you build like a family in this like kind
Absolutely.
of community, which is great.
It's, like our Friday night Zooms, like we've had people on from all over the country, and then from talking to them like this, you become friends with them, and then it's like when you see them in person, it's like you've known each other forever. You know what I mean? It's such a cool feeling. And you can go anywhere in the country, and they'll welcome you in just because you're an arm wrestler. Well, not me. You guys are arm wrestlers. I don't throw myself in that category. But yeah. What I thought was really cool about your event, and we'll touch on that, but one, you guys killed it. It was organized, like amazing event. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was actually watching Devon. Like, he's been doing this how long now? And he still had, like, you could just see he just absolutely enjoyed what he was doing, like his passion for the sport. He loves teaching. He pulled all night long till he couldn't move his, like, that was amazing that someone who's been in the sport that long still loves the sport that much, that just passing on his knowledge to everyone that was there. And you could just see it. Like, he was so into it, like it was cool. Like, when you've done that many seminars, you'd think he'd just be like, but he was so excited to pass on that knowledge. It was so cool to see. And I think everyone in that room like picked up on that for sure, which was really interesting.
It was an epic experience, for somebody who's new in the sport like myself to be there. I'm still vibrating off that energy. I'm sure that you guys are just the same, as well as everyone that's in attendance.
Yeah,
that's because his signature's on your shoulder.
Yeah, literally. Like, I'm wearing the shirt that I got.
I noticed that, by the way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
I was like, you better not sweat in that shirt tonight.
Oh, the minute this podcast is up, it's going back on the hanger in its case.
I've seen so many people wearing that shirt. Will was wearing it just the other day, Chris, and I'm like, "You're awesome. Wearing that? Like, what's wrong with you,
dude?"
I actually wanted to reach out to you guys to get a second one that doesn't have the signature, so I can rock it, because I don't want to rock
sure.
One that.
Isn't it fun though? Like, when you see people wearing your shirts all over the place.
Dude,
like our 98 shirts, like we'll be watching a random video, and I'm like, "Oh, that dude's wearing our shirt." Yes,
dude. We were talking about it during the event. Like, I don't know where your like line begins and ends with 98%, because like I go to every single tournament and you guys are always there. I'm like, this guy's promotion is awesome. Like, I need a piece of that.
Well, you guys are creating a similar structure.
Accident, really. I mean, we didn't like set out to do this. It just kind of happened. But the concept really works for any sport. Like, any sport you're in, there's like that top, the percentage might not be accurate, but there's that top 2% of guys that are like the elite. And then everybody else in the sport is the other 98%, and you strive to be that 2%. Yeah. And even those guys are the 2%, they were at one point in the 98%, and then eventually they'll be back in the 98%. Maybe not John Brzezinski, but maybe when he's 90, he'll be back in the 98%.
When he's 98.
It's just a 90-year-old John. It'd just be 90-year-old John would still kill 90-year-old me, all of us.
Exactly.
More than likely.
But it's fun to build like something, Like, we're not. I don't even like. People mistake us like as a team or this or that, but it's just, we just kind of decided we're going to start a community, really to make amateurs feel more welcomed, because amateurs get intimidated by tournaments with all these pros, and we thought it would be a good idea. And the opposite happened is all the amateurs came to our tournaments, which made more pros come, because they were like, "Oh, this tournament's stacked," and that's kind of like it just kind of evolved into this. So, but yeah, like we wouldn't even have a community if there weren't teams like you guys out there and individuals that like kind of supported what we do. And that's what I love about this community. Like, we get so much support. And you guys got to admit, the area that we all live in is like if you compare it to the rest of the country, like, we're pretty fortunate, because we have some heavy hitters in this area. And, the Northeast is stacked. So we're fortunate in that way. Like, some of these guys down south have to travel like 6 hours just to get to a tournament.
Yeah.
Where we got one every weekend around here, pretty much.
So, question: how did this seminar come to fruition with Devon Larratt?
Because you told me what you guys planned this in 16 days, which is like impressive as hell.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
insanity.
we did.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Talk about a whirlwind.
this was a 16-day planning thing. So we basically 16 days to the event. We got on the phone with Devon, and there's more background to that, of course. Definitely more background. I didn't just somehow get his number and call him 16 days early and go, hey, so like,
What you doing?
what's going on? You have no clue who I am. But I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not some wealthy whatever. Like, we're not, it was way more involved than that. But it was 16 days. So 16 days prior, we were on the phone with Devon, and Devon's like, hey, look, we're going back and forth, and I don't want to go back and forth on you guys. He's like, but I hate to say this, I don't think I can work with your schedule. I don't think I can accommodate what you guys are asking me. How soon is too soon? He said to Chris and I. And we obviously can't see each other. I'm at work at the time, kind of like hiding in the warehouse so I can have this conversation. And
There's no such thing.
yeah, and I'm like, Chris, I'm like, how soon is too soon? I'm like, there's nothing too soon if it means we can't work with you. You know what I mean? Like, the only thing we want to do is work with you. Like, this is, this has been going on for months and months now. And so I said, what are you thinking? And he threw out the date, and I'm scrambling while we're on the phone. I'm sending text messages to everybody that needs to know what's going on, or that I need an approval from with Signature Fitness and everything, who's been just an amazing support system for us. And we made it happen. But it started, I'd say, so June 25th was his match. I believe we reached out March. We reached out, Chris, myself, and Will, because Will's part of the team, but Will is also employed by Signature.
Okay.
Right.
He works for Signature. He's one of the directors of operations over there. He runs social media and everything. And so the three of us got together, and we're like, listen, we need to do something, right? We need to do something. The team is growing. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, and we want to do something big. And so we're like, we can host a seminar. We'll host a seminar. So we started going through the usuals. We're like John, we're like Mike, we're like Todd. We're going through all these people, and we evaluated that I think Todd could throw like a really, really good seminar. And we're in a gym, so like his West Side method that he follows would be great, right? And we're all kind of like, Devon would be great, but we don't think that's realistic.
Right.
So we went through it, and I think Todd was doing something at the time. And so we got together, and Will and I very quickly, very like last second, Will and I put a video together. And we're like, hey, Devon, we want you to come down. We want to help you with your training as if we could, for Levon. We'll get as many people as we can, and we'll just run. You can just run through the team like 1,000 times. Like, whatever we can do to help you, we would love to work with you. And we put it on our story. We sent it to close friends. Like, we did whatever we could possibly do to get him to notice it. Right. We're like, he's not seeing it this way, I'll do something else. He's not seeing it that way, I'll do close friends. And I'm a
now
right?
you
I won't leave him alone.
Jody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. Very true.
After watching the seminar, you know that Jody is the one you got to.
Yeah, she's the kid.
Win over.
Exactly. Jody is a great person, but that's the person you need to know.
Yeah.
That's the person you need to talk to. Yeah. I mean, they're an amazing team. Like, they really, really are. And it was him that kind of reached out to us. He saw, I guess that the logo was different. Our jerseys were different. Like, we were trying to do things. We've been from the very beginning trying to do things, we're trying to do things our way.
Yeah.
We're not deliberately trying to do things different than other arm wrestling teams or organizations. We've never had a problem with what other people do,
right.
But we wanted to do things the way we wanted to do them. We wanted to look the way we wanted to look, and we just hoped that other people responded to that because it was different. We knew it was different.
Yeah.
And I think that helped us a lot with Devon.
Super.
But we didn't get we got a kind of a response and, hey, that would be awesome, but like, I'm busy right now training, right? Like for this amazingly important event. And so we kind of sat on that for 4 months. And then almost a month after the Levon event, I'm like, I can't wait any longer. I'm itching to, like, this guy's going to get booked up like everybody else. It's like that when you're, this girl just broke up with someone. It's like, do I wait or do I ask her out and be a jerk, right? And I'm like, I'm going to ask this 6'5" lady out and be a jerk because I want the date. So, what I mean? If there's a chance she's going to date me, right? She's going to do it now because tomorrow she's going to be with Joe. And I'm not interested in Joe. So I think it was actually 2 weeks. I just reached out and I'm like, hey, like, would you be interested? We would love to host you, like whatever you need. We'll figure it out. We have a great venue with Signature. What can we do? And we got really lucky when he was like, what do you guys want to do? And I'm like, can I call you? I was like, if I get the phone number, right? If I get his digits, I'm good. I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. And he sent me the phone number. He's like, let me know when you want to talk.
Nice.
And then I passed out.
Yeah.
That was it.
Like,
I passed out. I had no idea what to do. I'm like, I'm calling Devon. I called Chris. I'm like, we're calling Devon tomorrow. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. Take off of work, breathe, whatever it is. This is going to happen.
He doesn't realize like what he is to the community. Like, he's like
he's the pinnacle.
Michael Jordan.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
He's our Michael Jordan. Yeah.
And then he
really is our Michael Jordan.
A regular laid back guy and just talks to you like, like he looked like he would have been more comfortable walking around the gym barefoot. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, we never had to stop him.
Yeah.
Like he did whatever he wanted to do, and I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to say a thing, but like, yeah, I think he did. I think he wore shoes because he thought he was supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's all that was. I think I think Chris told him like, hey, it's state law. And he was like, okay.
So
that's the only reason
come up with your the model you use for your internal ranking system? Because I'm curious about that. I want to try to replicate that. And for anybody who sees what you guys got going there, I love seeing your matchups every Sunday or every couple of weeks, seeing the guys in your club going at it with each other. Please take a moment and explain it.
Yeah, I can take that one. So I think essentially, right, back to your previous point about like amateurs not wanting to compete because of fear of like injury or not knowing enough about the sport, and they're thinking like there's no basis, right? And kind of similar of a military background, you don't want to go on the deployment and use that as your training. You want to, that's where you're already going to be perfected what you're doing and you have trained prior to, right? So we kind of looked at our own kind of experience, and we saw that where we kind of use the tournaments as like our reps, but like when you're at practice, you're kind of just going through the motions of like everyone trying to beat each other up, right? So what we decided was, why don't we kind of create our own internal tournaments where we can meld the super match aspect of it and the tournament aspect of it. So come time when one of our members was to get challenged by somebody external, or if they were to go to a local tournament, they'd have already gone through 1 or 2 reps at minimum of that experience. And I think there's nothing that can replicate you going up to the table 1v1 against a guy that is equally as motivated, right? So what we decided was, we'll say, all right, first it was kind of like ranking and kind of stacking people based on experience that we knew people had, and then also kind of just like strength level. But as the team developed and as we kind of got more year or time behind us, what we decided was essentially during each quarter, you would have an opportunity to challenge a member, right? Regardless of like weight class or whatever. And that would also have its own appropriate scoring system behind it. And that would be a super match format. It'd be best of 5 or best of 3. And you guys kind of just battle it out. And we try to create a environment that would be similar to if you had a super match with somebody external, right? You'd have to agree on rule set. You'd have to agree on, are we starting in the straps? And we try to keep it where it's like, all right, these are the IFA rules, because we know like that's the more predominant, I guess, like rule set and something that you would see on a more official level versus like WL, for example, where it kind of defaults to going into the straps. Yeah. And we make sure, as long as you guys understand the rules, everyone is in agreement of like what we're doing, we'll have the super match. And then at the end of the quarter, we'll say, all right, this is going to be now the tournament ranking system. So now we'll say, based on who has competed during that quarter and has kind of shown that they've done externally things as well and has come to practice consistently, those all award you a certain amount of points. And then you'll have your total points at the end of the quarter, and we'll say, all right, you know, Joe ended up being first, you know, Smith ended up being second, you know, so on and so forth. And we'll have them kind of compete to see who is the top 5, because only the top 5 in every weight class will actually compete in that final tournament. So it incentivizes you to compete as much as you can and be as active as you can during the quarter. And unfortunately, I mean, not every class has enough to fill that 5. It's mainly our lighter weights, but it becomes really competitive. And again, we don't have much to offer because it's more for experience, but what we've been doing lately is more on the jersey aspect. So if you ever see somebody wearing their own personalized jersey, that's because it was earned. That means that they have gone through this like gauntlet of pulling their other teammates and have gotten to the point of they are the top at their weight class, right? And we feel that through that experience, not only are they proud to represent themselves, but they're also proud to represent our team, right? And now going forward, whenever they go to a tournament, you're going to see it's, you know, Chris Florendo of the High Five with his own jersey competing in whatever weight class, whether that's amateur or pro.
That's cool.
That is very cool. That lends to a very solid structure, and I'm sure that piece of that structure helped Devon make his decision to jump on to what you guys were doing because of that. I mean, that it has a great image and a great value to watch as well. Great watch value to see it, and I get invested in these matches. To be honest with you, I'm like sitting there, okay, who's gonna be next? I actually look forward to these guys coming out and competing. Almost like as if it was a big super match setting or a tournament setting. So kudos to you guys, man.
Now, did you guys tell Devon, had he come before the Levon match, he might have done better?
Oh, imagine. We could have contributed. Yeah, I know, right? I mean, that too, right? Like, to the point of like how awesome a guy Devon is, like, regardless of the result of the match, you would think like, oh, this guy might go into hiding and he's going to do whatever he wants to do. No, his first reaction was to go into the community and try to give back everything he could. And you said it yourself earlier, like, this guy is super down to earth. Like, when we met him for the first time, you wouldn't believe that, like you said, he's the Michael Jordan of the sport. He goes up and I've told a few people this already, but when I met him and Jody for the first time in person, they actually came up to me and said, "Hi, I'm Devon," and like, "Hi, I'm Jody," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you are." Like, everyone knows who you are, you know what I mean? But like, the fact that they're like that humble, you know, like, there's like kind of that saying where like, if you're the last person in the room to introduce yourself, it's because you thought everyone knew who you were. You know, he's not one of those people. He knows, like, very humble to say like, "Hey, you might not know who I am, but like, you're gonna know who I am soon."
Yeah.
Well, that, and he knows you. That's what was so crazy too. Like, he, like, I got out of the car to go to get him, and like, he knows who we are. Like, and I mean, like, this, you know, there were so many times that people don't really know or don't really pay attention. You know, it's like, you know, like this. Yeah, they were.
That's crazy.
We've said it before about the sport. Like, it's just crazy how you can meet these people. Like, you can arm wrestle these people. You know, you can't get a pickup game with, you know, with any pro. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to do that, and the fact that, like Chris said, that, you know, they introduced themselves, that they were regular people.
Oh yeah.
You know, like,
completely
regular people. Really super chill, super just cool to hang out with, you know?
When I walked in, he was like, I couldn't even believe it. He was like, "Oh, Ryan Grondin from the 98, the rubber band guy." And I was like, how does, like, you don't picture that he sits there looking at the same stuff we do in the arm wrestling community, but he does.
Oh, 100%.
Watches all that stuff, like,
he's totally,
because he's an arm wrestler, just like us. He's just a lot stronger.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, a lot stronger.
That's the only difference between us and the elite guys. Like, they're just normal guys. They're just a lot better at what we do, you know, which is great. This is the only sport where you can actually hang out and have a drink with your, like,
Yeah.
you know, like some famous pitcher you like. You're not playing catch with them after a game. You know what I mean? Like, never
No.
gonna happen. But this
But
sport is just amazing.
what impressed me tremendously, though, about my experience with him this past weekend, I gripped up with him twice. First time was earlier on in the evening, and I shared some information about myself, about my weight loss, and about me, my arm hurting. And the second time I get to the table, he actually remembered it, and this was like 3 or 4 hours later, and
Yeah.
he remembered the vivid details, mind you. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, how do you remember all this? You've just arm wrestled 500 people.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So like the
Yeah.
importance that the emphasis of individuality that he puts on it really just commends what you guys are doing and lifting everything up. It's just all around a great experience. Question though, with that being said, with him being the topic of discussion and no limits being his thing, the sky's the limit for the High Five Club, right? You guys just recently released some information about what you guys are doing November 5th. How did that come to fruition?
Yeah, that's great.
So it's kind of the same thing as the Devon thing, to be honest with you. We're always looking. So it's a team. It's a community or a family. I think those kind of are blended. But it's also a company, and I don't mean a company like, oh, what's the next thing to like make money, but it's a company in the sense that like we treat it like it has to grow. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily about profit. I mean, obviously, it's always nice to make money, right? It's always nice to give money back to the community, to make sure that Chris and I don't spend any money out of our own pocket, and we can continue to do this. But what it really is we're continuing to try and provide a service, whether it be entertainment, whether it's training, whatever it is. We're trying to grow this company to continue to provide service, right? It's to give back to the community, and that starts with our guys. It starts with our people. It starts with our, with our guys, and then the tri-state area, and it continues to build, to this East Coast, Northeast, whatever you want to call it, area. And we were looking for another thing. We try to do. I want to say a big thing, but this was a massive thing that we just did. So we were trying to do a big thing for us, right?
Yeah.
Every single month, every single quarter, we're like, oh, we need something to attract people. And more and more and more, we're looking at it and we're like, there aren't any qualifiers in the area, And for me, I know there's now the Olympia, and there are other big competitions. We were at Keystone just recently. That was huge with James Reed and Paul and all of those guys, and that was an amazing competition. And we're kind of looking at all of this, and for me, and for Chris, it's been the Arnold. Like that was just, for whatever reason, that was the thing that caught my eye when I started competing. The idea that I could go to the Arnold, maybe not for bodybuilding, but that this was this another level competition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they weren't hosting worlds, in the United States at the time. And we're all talking about it. We're all excited about, qualifying for the Arnold. And then, the Devon thing happened, and there's other stuff on the way. And we're trying to figure out when we can go, how we can qualify as many people as possible to go to the Arnold. And I just said to Chris, I said, why don't we do the same thing we did with Devon? Like, why don't we just reach out and make them give us a competition, because I just won't leave Denise and Leonard alone for the rest of their lives until they let me do this, because that's what we want to do.
Your phone number too.
Yeah, like really, like it's so I'm in charge of the harassment department, and I went to work. I was like, we're going to do this. So that's why it was the Arnold. That's why it was the Arnold qualifier. But that was the first part of the choice. But then, to be honest with you, the rest of it was also like, we don't have one in the tri-state. We haven't had one in the tri-state years. If I honestly haven't been competing long enough to even know when there was an Arnold qualifier in the New York, New Jersey metro area, And like you said before, Ryan, we have a lot of amazing pullers in our area that I feel don't get an opportunity, or don't get an easy opportunity to compete for the Arnold. You know what I mean? Qualifying is a totally different story. You know what I mean? Like I really, really hope that I qualify at my own event. Okay. I hope Chris qualifies at it. Like we're really hoping that, that our guys qualify.
Right.
But the reality is that there's a very limited amount of spots and it's only right hand, So it's not an easy thing to do, but it's a lot harder when you have to go to Alabama or Arkansas or me. I went to California 2 times.
Yeah.
So we reached out and again, it was another opportunity where for whatever reason, other people haven't done it, other people weren't doing it, just like with the Devon thing. Like if you don't try, what was the worst Devon could say? Like, who are you? What are you? Like, I'm in Canada. Like, I don't travel that far. Right. So we asked a lot. I asked over and over again, but yeah, it's, we're just looking for the next big thing all the time, the next big way to promote the team and the sport. And,
well, you
like
guys
I said, I don't stop asking.
Having Devon as one of your first things, you can't go up from there much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was all strategic. Like,
we have to do that if you have the opportunity.
Yeah, we wanted to do it for multiple reasons. I mean, obviously, the first and foremost reason is that, listen, just plainly, he wasn't available any other time. When we talked to him about his schedule, I think he's booked until November.
Yeah.
If I'm correct. So he's really booked. You know what I mean? The minute people started to see that, like, he was pulling right after the match, that it didn't matter what happened to the arm, he's been getting phone calls like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So
when are you guys having Levon?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just, I think
that good translator.
That flight, man, I don't know about covering accommodations from Georgia. You know what I mean? A drive from Canada is 6 hours. A flight from Georgia, I don't know.
Dude, a lot of
I don't know.
Tournaments specifically, like when they had the one in Virginia with Lachlan Adair there, I got to go to meet him because I follow him on social media.
Yeah, of course.
I talk to him a lot, so I was like, I got to go for that reason. So it's cool to see like different tournaments have different guests that people you wouldn't normally pull with,
Yeah. We're trying to do something like that for us too, but we'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
So
little things. We got a bunch of stuff coming, and
I can't wait to see what you guys
stuff. Listen, stuff doesn't work out. We just keep, it's a battle of attrition, and I'm very persistent. I'm gonna find somebody who's just gonna be like, listen, I'll come if you leave me the hell alone. So
it sounds like
that mask is a lot cheaper than I thought he would be. So just a heads up, guys.
You promote the event just as you arm wrestle with such tenacity that you just don't give up. There's no quit. Which is awesome. It's awesome because we all benefit from it. Everyone benefits and gets to enjoy your hard work. So kudos to you, man. We love having that. So
appreciate it.
There are other things in the works. Are you allowed to share or discuss anything that's in the making? Or
the only real, I mean, if Chris wants to say something, listen, I'm cool. Like, we're easy like that. I think we have some sort of telepathy at times, you know what I mean? But the only 100% confirmed, like we did at the event, the only 100% confirmed, like officially dated event is the Arnold qualifier with USAA on November 5th. We do have other things in the works. Like I'll let Chris kind of speak to that if he wants to, but that's the only thing that it's 100%, like contracts are signed. Like I'm designing and we're in the process of putting everything together. Like
you gotta make sure when you plan things that you tell Dave Shell, because he gets very cranky when he finds out about a tournament that he didn't know about.
I know that's why honestly he's been a great supporter of the team too. Like when he heard about it, he actually told me, he's like, I heard something's coming.
Well, I mentioned it to him and I said, is this on your list, Dave? And he was like, no. And then I knew right away he must have been texting you like, what's going on?
Exactly. And I felt so bad because I didn't want to give him like half-ass information, right? Because he is kind of like, the professor that lets everyone know what's going on. So I'm like, the last thing I want to do is tell this guy one thing, and then unfortunately it's actually something else. So but like Jason said, I mean, there's other stuff coming. same thing, like I said about the tournament. I don't want to talk about something that we haven't fully fleshed out, and then ultimately, it doesn't work out. So I don't want to make half-ass
Right.
promises.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd say the only thing that I'd say leading up to Arnold is we want to promote it as much as we can, right? So if you guys kind of see things come out to that effect, it's keep your eyes and ears open.
Oh, we'll
There's
help
stuff
you
coming.
share.
We'll help you guys share all over the place.
Definitely
But
appreciate it. Yeah.
we talked about this a little bit. Have you guys thought about the Northeast Coalition thing that is going on up here?
We have Chris and I have discussed it quite a bit.
Yeah.
James was really nice. He reached out. I feel so bad with everything that's been going on. I had a really good conversation with James via text, short conversation. I know he's just like me. I'd rather call somebody.
Yeah.
I don't want a text message. I guess I don't know if that's old school, but I would rather speak to you.
Yeah.
But James and I had a really nice, short conversation. I reached out to him to kind of find out what needed to be done, what was going on, what actually is required, what the organization truly is, because we've heard bits and pieces from multiple people. I just unfortunately haven't had a chance to call him back with the Devon thing going on.
Yeah.
But we're definitely talking to him, and we'll continue to do so. Yeah.
I mean, it's mostly just to spread out tournaments so we're not all stepping on each other's toes, really. He's got a schedule. You submit your dates, and we try to move them around so that it works for everybody. Because there's some guys, like Nitro, he throws his Tomato Festival thing. That cannot change. Like, that's the same date every year. So things like that, we try to spread it out. There's not really rules or anything, but they kind of have a guideline that we go by, like depending on how far it is from other tournaments, and how many weeks that you should wait for like a minor tournament versus a major, just stuff like that. And it really has helped because there are guys that purposely sometimes try to step on people's toes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So and that has that has weeded out those guys, and now they're like off on their own, and they're not part of. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of like weeded them out, so like, all right, now it's obvious, very obvious that this guy's trying to do that, and now it doesn't really affect us anymore because he can't really do it, because if people will go support the tournament that was done the right way versus the guy that's trying to throw a tournament on yours.
Yeah.
So it's been helpful in that way, and all of us members try to really, really support each other's events. Like, I go to all James's events, he comes to ours, and now we use him for brackets, stuff like that. And it's cool. You'll see, like, if you do end up joining, that it does have its benefits. You know what I mean? But it was a cool idea.
No, for sure. I remember, I want to say it was like maybe 1 or 2 summers ago, I was talking to Steve Black and Mike Bisman before they got into the group with Empire Arms, and just like in like its infancy phases, where he was telling me kind of the premise behind it, and it kind of struck me. I was like, that's a genius idea, just because, like, to your point, even regardless of the stepping on each other's toes, just the support of each other's tournaments, right? Because all of us are itching to compete, so why not just coordinate it so that we can all go to the tournaments we want to go to, versus having to decide, do I want to go to James's or do I want to go to Mike's? And then now you're kind of torn between the two.
If you want.
Yeah, exactly. And the community of arm wrestling, even though it's growing, it's still like a finite amount of people. And it's almost impossible to avoid certain people because they're at every event, right? So you're gonna know everyone in the community, right? Which is cool. But at the same time, it's like you don't want to step on other people's toes, because you're ruining a possibility of a good friendship that you could have built, right? So
and 2 events on each other's back. I got now. Neither event is good. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's a great point.
It kind of kills both events,
Yeah.
But it's fun too. Like James is. I mean, you guys know him. He's a great dude, and I've learned a lot from him, because we're fairly new to throwing tournaments ourselves. Like, Winter Blast was our 3rd tournament, so we've learned a lot from him and stuff, and they're always super helpful. If I call him and with a question, I talk to him at least once a week on the phone, even if it's just bullshit, you know, like what's going on in the community, you know, like, or even stupid stuff like gossip, you know, like, oh, like, did you hear this? You know what I mean? But he's just a good dude, you know, and I love seeing what you guys are doing because it's like that's that's what you guys are doing is like what we are trying to do also. So it's like very similar. I mean, you guys are a team, and we're not really a team, but
same mindset,
the
though.
concept is,
Yeah,
is
that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah,
That doesn't matter at all.
No matter how you package it, it's the same mindset, right? We're
right.
trying to build up the community around us. There's a saying that I actually, early on, that I used to say: think globally, act locally. Well, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're thinking on a larger spectrum, but we're making the actions right here in our own backyard. Literally, in my own backyard, I use that as my platform to blow up the sport as much as I can and include everyone that's willing to put their elbow down on the table. So
Yeah.
why not work together? Why not collaborate and make it a team effort, a community effort?
It's not a competition in that way. Like it's
there's enough room for all of us.
Everyone can benefit from growing the sport, you know.
No, 100%.
Every new person goes to more tournaments, you know. That's how I look at it.
No, and we've all, I hate this because recently we've been so busy too with everything going on with the group and just, you know, personal life and everything. But I think everyone involved in the community has had at least once, oh, are you going to so-and-so's tournament? Oh, no, I can't because on the 7th is John's tournament, but on the 12th is Joe's tournament. Right. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have you had to pick and choose where to go? Right. You know, oh, well, I can't do this because I don't have enough time in between. And I found out about, you know, about Dave's tournament before I found out about John's tournament.
I promised him I'd go. And
I mean, all the time. Or you would have traveled further if you had known a little bit earlier. And if you didn't, you know, if you didn't plan to go to somebody else's tournament, because I think something that we do a lot that Chris and I are also trying to fix is like, we stay close, we stay local because it's comfortable, you know? And so like having an event like the Devon event, having an event like USAA, like Winter Blast, which was massive. Like these are events that bring people from our entire area together. You know, like you want to be local. It's great to be Jersey, but New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, I mean, Boston. I mean, we had people from 8 states at Devon. All of those people, we're all the same family.
Right. That's how it was with Winter
all
Blast.
The same family.
I didn't expect it to be that big at all, but I mean, like Jamie Sheldon, you know, like people from all over the country came to it, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. But you guys can probably attest to this. Like when you start doing these things that you guys are doing and we're doing, this becomes a full-time job almost. Like I'm constantly, I'm the guy that is
not enough hours.
Like we started a committee within the 98% where there's like 5 of us, you know, and that number changes. You know, some people drop out, more people want.
5 is a good number.
Yeah,
stick with 5. 5 is a very good number.
High 5 of us.
Everything can be 5. Don't worry about it.
The rule of 5.
We're in there, and you don't even know
when
it.
Someone's like 90%, I'm like, no, it's 98%.
Oh, they do it all the time.
It's like a full-time job. Like,
I hate it.
I am constantly emailing sponsors and like full-time job when you're planning a tournament or something big. Like after Winter Blast, man, I think I like didn't leave my house for like 2 weeks. I was like burnt out just planning. But it's so fun to put in that work though, and then to see it happen, and then you did something. You know, like I'm not ever going to impress people with my arm wrestling, but that's not my contribution to the sport. My contribution now is something different. I mean, I still love to arm wrestle and I'll still do it, but I'm not going to ever be in the 2%. You know, it's just not in the cards. But I have fun with it, and it's, you know, a fun hobby. But my fun is throwing these tournaments and growing the 98% and coming up with new ideas. And I think you guys probably are in that. Like you're starting to see like it does become a full-time job real quick when you start planning these large things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I joke with Jason all the time. It's like the fun never stops. But I think a big part of that, right, is like I always try to tell our team that it really does take a village, and we really appreciate all the support. I have to admit that 16-week turnaround could not work if it was just me and Jason. It took Will doing his part, Federico and Steve Demon, and every single person on our High Five crew, whether it was sharing a post, whether it was helping us move equipment, whether it was whether it was more logistical, and all those little things, they really add up. And I think all of that doesn't get seen and at face value. They kind of think oh, Chris and Jay did X, Y, and Z, but that's why I try to stress as much as I can.
Dude, that was huge because you reached out to me. I'm on I got out there early because I'm always early. Like you text me and I'm like, I'm already here.
Yeah, no, I was I felt so bad. I was like, oh shit, no, I'm not even there yet.
I always get there super early and then I'll grab something to eat in the area or something. But I'm just always early. But you texted me and you're like, let me know when you're at the door. We'll send someone out to help bring the table in. Like you guys used the whole team as if you guys were all event staff. And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like it. I like how you guys operate too, because it lends to the name. It literally is like different fingers of a part of a hand. You guys literally work in conjunction with each other and help each other out on a level that is so synergistic. You would think that it's literally one body part moving, together. So
we're very, very lucky. Yeah, we're extremely lucky.
I'm always looking at things from a different angle because I'm like, how can we make what we're doing better? And then to see you guys do something super cool, I'm like, I'm learning from that now. You know what I mean? And then I see other events like in Texas and other guys that I talk to, and we have them on our Friday night Zooms, and we'll pick their brain to see what are you guys doing down there to set yourselves apart. And we're just constantly trying to absorb all that so that we can make the next thing even better. Like we're already planning the next Winter Blast, and we got more than enough time, but we're already we got to jump on this now, and that's what we're working on. So, but it's cool to see other guys doing the same thing and kind of moving in the same direction we're moving. And really, we all have the same end goal to just grow the sport.
And like Jason was saying, I think we lucked out, not necessarily the quantity, but the quality of people that we got, and like you were saying, almost like they were event staff. To be honest, it wasn't me saying oh, you have to do this, I need you to do that. It was more of a bunch of people asking us, how can we help? And it was so organic, you can't make that up. You can't force someone to help you as much as they want to. And I think that's where we really lucked out. I'd rather have 5 great people than have 100 people that I can't even tell to do a single thing, right? So having them there and their willingness to constantly come back, get one thing done and come back to us and be like, hey, what else do you need help with? What else can we do? And they realize, and I think a lot of it is, it really is, and the fact that, they see where the team is going, and they see that like we were talking about before, even though it is a company, we're trying to grow the sport, we're trying to grow the community. They see that even though we do put a lot of hours into this, it's like you said, it's fun, but there are not enough hours in the day. So
there's not at all.
And I think
we started our little committee thing, kind of because you guys are a team, so you're already a group where we're a community, so we didn't have that core group. So then and I didn't want to be one of those guys that I'm making all the decisions all the time. So I was like, let's have a committee. So now every time something comes up that we're not sure of, we have a vote. And that's everything comes to a vote with us now. There's not one guy calling the shots. I always put it to a vote. Then if I don't agree with it, I override it. But,
that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
No, but I always run stuff by the committee because it's people I trust, like Dan, Sue Fisher, Dave Shell. We got a good little core group, and we just vote on stuff should we do this, or how do you guys feel about this? And it's helpful,
You have to. Yeah. You have to. I don't think any one of us
have your
knows
team to rely on.
Yeah. We've been really lucky. It's it's like a little focus group.
Yeah.
We're able to reach out and ask 40 people or 20 people, hey, what do you think? Would you be interested in this? Could you help?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the fun, after Winter Blast, most people just disappear after a tournament. They're just gone. Right? But we had like 5 or 6 guys that were like, what can we do to help tear down? That's priceless.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day,
or when's the next tournament? Like,
right.
like before the tournaments, even before they leave, they like, you have the next one planned.
Yeah.
But it's nice.
We couldn't have done it without that.
Because
we wouldn't have been able to pull any of it off
by yourself. That's a pain in the ass, dude.
Yeah.
It's a long night.
Yeah.
5 or 6 guys helped us out. We took down everything. We took down the tables, took them out, and then we were able to go hang out at the bar with like Uncle John and all the other guys that came. But we would have never been able to do that if only a couple of us had to tear everything down. So it was nice to get that help, and it was so nice to see like your whole team come together like that. Like that's awesome. You know what I mean? It made me jealous that we're not a team. I'm like,
you wouldn't know it. Like Chris said, everyone represents 98. You would not know that you guys are not a team. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I would think most people don't know that.
It's fun to see the shirts everywhere. Because, I mean, technically, everyone is in the 98% unless you're the top elite guy. Whether you support us or not, you're a 98%er. You know what I mean? But it's just been fun.
Take over.
Like, I just have fun with it. Like, it's such a fun thing, growing the sport. Like, I love seeing, like, some new guy come in that's super strong and just surprising everybody. Or, or even seeing guys that started out not so good and now they've surpassed me, and I'm like, good for you, buddy. Go get it. But
what's next for you individually?
People.
What's next for you guys individually in the sport? Like, where can we see you guys competing next?
Wait, Chris.
I was just gonna say our main focus is really the qualifier. Okay. We want to make sure that we can kind of prep ourselves the best for that, just because, like, I mean, it's the whole premise is, I guess, if you look at it, I don't know, not in a weird way, but like we're trying to be like parents. We want to make sure that everyone on our team can have a better experience than we did, right, as we were going through it. So one of the ways we did that was kind of like, whether it was a team thing or whether it was like a tournament, we'll try to bring it to you guys, because we know that accessibility is kind of one of the things that hinders a lot of people. So we kind of want to make sure that if we're going to have it in our own house, that we can represent, right? So we're trying to make sure we're as best prepped as we can for that. Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome. Now, coming from the military, Chris, and having that level of readiness to help and work, how much of a difference is that from your experience from when you first came out of the military and to now? Like, it's probably like a big culture shock to a certain degree, because you're not used to that much level of a camaraderie.
Yeah, I mean, so actually, I'm actually still in, but it's funny. Yeah. So I'm actually still in. It's a New Jersey National Guard. So I worked as a janitor mechanic, but it's actually funny too, right? Like you said, like sometimes, like, yes, obviously there's tons of camaraderie in the military, and everyone's like your brother, right? But I think, like I mentioned before, which is I think a little different, is in the military you're always for a common goal, like whatever, to protect the United States and make sure, like, all our assets are covered. But when it comes to arm wrestling, like you said, it's an individual sport, and we're all competing to our next goal. So, like, in some certain situations, the person that's your friend is also the person that's, hindering you from achieving your goal, which could be whatever place. So, but with that being said, that doesn't diminish the camaraderie. Like, I've had tons of times where you'll pull with somebody, and which is an awesome experience, where you'll pull with them, whether you won or lost, you're almost like thanking them, like, where it's like, oh, that was an awesome match. That was great that we like pulled. Like, I remember, for example, at Keystone, I pulled Eddie like left hand, right? And we had like this battle, like I think we pulled like 4 times, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, like, it wasn't this, like, you would think after that battle, I'd hate the guy. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, like, you screwed me for the turn, blah, blah, blah. But no, we both saw each other like, yo, man, you're constantly getting better. Like, keep up the hard work. Like, that was an awesome match. Like, that was great. And you can't like fabricate that. Like, I've never seen, like, even being in the military where everyone is like contracted to be your like brother and sister, like in a sport where it's all voluntary and it's just a hobby. It's great to see like the competitive side doesn't like bleed into like you supporting each other.
Right.
Otherwise,
voluntary.
I don't count my win on you after that war with Ed.
Oh,
As a legit win because you weren't ready for it.
No, honestly though, you felt for what it's worth, you felt great, man. It would have been a battle either way, for sure.
Ed is very passionate about winning.
Yeah, he's a great dude, man. Very strong.
He's a good dude. He is a good dude.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, how many? Hey, I meant to ask this because the way you guys had the seminar set up, there were a lot of people there, but it didn't feel like there were a lot of people there. Like, what was the cap for just the seminar? Like, was it like, did you cap it for code reason or space? You know what I mean? Because it felt like if you looked around, it looked like there were a lot of people there, but it felt very comfortable. It didn't feel too packed. There weren't. It wasn't like noisy. It was a very comfortable situation considering how many people were probably there. But
we kind of did it for a couple of different reasons. It was part of the concern, with our partner with Signature. They wanted to, and so did we. Of course, we wanted to host an event that, a successful event, and a lot of people might be like, oh, well, if we can get 300 people in there, let's get 300 people in there, But it was, it was partially Chris and I trying to kind of figure out how many people we could manage, how many people we could let in.
Yeah.
It was Signature wanting to host a proper event and having the space, and there are obviously safety codes and capacity numbers to go by. But it was also Devon. Devon from the beginning, didn't want it to be so big that he couldn't, as he put it, he couldn't touch everybody at the seminar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, even afterwards, he felt bad. He was like, I don't know if I got to touch everyone, if I got to work with, if I got to talk to, if I got to physically shake hands, if I got to make a connection with every single person.
He actually said that to me, like, because I didn't pull him, and he was like, I'm so sorry that I didn't get to pull you. And I said, dude, trust me, you probably, like me not pulling you, you probably gave someone some tips that actually could use that in advance. Don't waste your time on me. You know what I mean? That's how I felt. But the fact that he said that was amazing.
Yeah. He said that multiple times. And, we originally capped it at 75.
Yeah.
And then we just had so many people asking. We went back to Signature and we pushed it to 85, but we just, like I said, for all those reasons, we felt it either wasn't the safest thing to do. It wasn't giving everybody an opportunity to watch it properly. It wasn't giving Devon an opportunity to properly, entertain these people and educate them.
Did you get a lot of people contacting you after, like, bro, let me in?
Yeah.
Because the only reason I asked that is because all I did is share your poster around a bunch of places, and people are messaging me going, dude, it's sold out. Can you get me in? I'm like, no.
We had so many people asking, man. We had so many people, and I really, really felt bad. Chris and I had people from hours away, from down south and from all over the place, like, oh my God, I'll pay double, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'm driving 4 hours with the family, and I'm like,
was
and
the
it's
practice
like, look,
capped too? I didn't even notice if the practice part after was that capped. No. So that was
it was, but it wasn't anything that we got anywhere near like the overall capacity that we were allowed to have for like an open standing walking around event. The numbers were ridiculously high. They worked with us with that. They just didn't want it to be they didn't want the audience to be so big that they couldn't see anything. You know what I mean?
Right. That's cool though.
They wanted to make sure the seminar was a good seminar. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I love too, is like you go to something like that and you literally almost know everybody there.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say this, there was a ton of guys there that were like, well, there's two things. There were a lot of guys there that were like, this is my first time ever pulling. And then number two, there were a lot of people there who were not there to pull. They said, I'm not an arm wrestler, but I heard Devon was going to be here. I just wanted to come meet him. And I was like, oh, dude, that is awesome. Like there were these two kids there that I was talking to for a while, and they were like, when we heard Devon was coming, because we've been following him from like the Jujimufu, and they were like, we just wanted to meet him, and we heard he was here, so we drove out, and then they met him, shook his hand, and then they were out. But I was like, that's saying something. You know what I mean? Like the impact he has on even non-arm wrestlers. You know, people just like gravitate towards him. They just want to meet him.
Nobody's contributing more.
You guys made that happen, so that's amazing.
And I think that also is a testament to why we work so hard for it, right? Like, even though it was a quick turnaround, we had to put everything we could to make it successful because, like you said, we had people traveling from out of state, hours away, flew in. Like you can't half-ass it now, knowing that there's people committing so much to this, meeting this one guy. And that's why it was kind of heartbreaking at times when people said they couldn't. Like they missed the ticket sales, but at the same time, like I don't want to diminish from the other guy that did make it in time and did pay the money, and then I just keep extending it. So but like at the end of the whole thing, it was awesome. Like I think a guy from Massachusetts ended up coming up to me with a sister saying like, we drove X amount of hours, and I just wanted to say thank you for like giving me the opportunity to do X, Y, and Z like with Devon. And I'm like, hey man, that's what it's for. Like you said, like it's a tough thing where we put a lot of hours in, and sometimes it's not as rewarding, but that's the reward.
That's the reward,
when he said like, essentially making like a dream come true, I'm like, hey, like that was worth it. The hours we put into this, like that was awesome.
Yeah. Dude,
one of the guys that I brought with me, he actually had just gotten into the sport. His first time was at my barbecue. He came to my barbecue. It was his first time experience. He won all the raffles. And he's been riding a high of just being around really big names every which way he turns. And every month, awesome. And then I shared this with him that he was like, wait, what? We were just talking about me meeting him. What? I can meet him? And he was like a kid in a candy store that like been told for his whole life he was never allowed to have candy. Now he's allowed to have it. Like the tears of joy that came from this kid was amazing. He's actually on his very first podcast tonight with a guy that came to your event, and he got connected with him. So what you guys have created with this has been second to none, in my opinion. It hasn't been anything like it in the Northeast as of yet, and I can't wait to see what you guys top it with.
That video of Devon ripping the guy's necklace off?
Oh yeah,
that shit went viral.
Oh, I saw it.
And that is hilarious.
And then he was on Evan Burgoyne the other night, and they were talking about it. And I'm like, dude, that is so cool.
That guy trained with me.
Like at first,
that's awesome.
I was like, Devon, can you just rip this guy's necklace off? And he's like, I mean, I could, but he's like, why? And I was like, listen, it's his thing on the internet. Like everybody rips his chain off. So he's absolutely, and he nailed it, dude. He made it look so real.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's so funny. Or the pictures of him choking me, like he didn't.
That was great too.
He didn't have to do that. I was like, Devon, do you mind just like pretending you're choking me? He's like, absolutely, I'll punch you. Whatever. You know, like, I was like, he's so laid back. Like I could have asked him anything, and he probably would have like, okay. Just that passion, that level of passion for his fans, and I don't even think he views us as fans. Like the passion he has for his peers, I should say, is just unparalleled. Like And the fact that you guys pulled that together, huge thank you from all of us.
We appreciate it, guys. We appreciate all of you guys. Yeah.
Absolute honor and privilege to be a part of this.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll have you guys on again after a couple other things you guys do. And
hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
hoping.
In the future, we're not opposed to doing collaboration with you guys.
Only 3 people watch this, and 2 of them are me.
Nice. Hey man, we're
you guys
we'll open up. We'll ask everyone on the team to open up an extra account.
Yeah.
Everybody
gets
just
not watch our
Gmail accounts, and we all subscribe.
Subscribe, and then you just don't watch it. Put it on your alternate email. Just help us out. But all right. I just want to say thank you. I don't want to hold you guys up all night. We've been on here a little over an hour now. So
an hour, yeah.
But if you got, is there anything you guys want to plug or throw out there, or that we haven't covered?
I mean, again, just honestly thank everybody. I mean, Signature and Signature has really, really, really helped.
Cool.
That made a huge difference to get that, that kind of that partnership, that support.
Yeah.
I guess I would also say go watch the podcast on their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Trying to get that as high as we can.
I'll also say this, 98 percenters, because we do this a lot. Let's all go give them a good Google review.
There you go. Yeah.
We'll also do
There
that.
You go.
Absolutely.
Because we got an army behind us that we can give you a bad review or a good review. It depends how nice you are to us.
It's almost better than having a team, guys. Listen, you have Google power.
We for some reason you guys have heard of like this troll army that's out there. For some reason they like us, and if we drop a hint, they are right there to like defend us, which is weird, but you know.
Listen,
we try to
good.
take most of the drama, but for some reason it just like
it finds a way.
Hard to not have.
It's a small community, though.
Yeah,
it's a small community, and I mean,
well, just like any other small family, you have squabbles here and there, right? You know, it's bound to happen. There's gonna be difference of opinion, difference of how to execute certain things, and you know, at the end of the day, as long as you can still brush it off and say, "Hey, we're still in the same boat together," that's all that matters, right?
Well, a lot of people come to me for advice, and I'm like, "Are you sure you want me to give you advice?" Like,
he's the last person to go to advice.
He's more qualified than me. You know. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming on. We appreciate it big time.
No, yeah. I just want to say thank you again. We appreciate you guys kind of supporting us, and like you said about the Devon event, we couldn't have done it without you guys. You know, the moment I want to share it on your page, you immediately approved, and I do appreciate that.
Hey, anytime, man. That's what our page is for. Like, we try to promote everybody. I mean, we do filter out some stuff because some people will post the same damn thing 3 times in the same day. But for the most part, anybody that has something in the Northeast or even anywhere in the country, we allow it through if it makes sense, you know? And, but yeah, I mean, anytime you guys need us to spread the word or whatever, we're here to support the teams and anybody that has stuff going on. So, you know, I wish more teams would use us as a tool for that. It's not something like we're not charging people. We just want to help and spread the word. So, you know, you guys used us as a tool for this event, and we appreciate that. And hopefully other teams will start to do the same thing so that we can help the sport grow in that way. Since we're not a team, like that's the only thing we can do really to help teams is to, you know, spread the word, I guess. So, but thanks a lot, guys. And
really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, man.
It's a good one.
See you.